Kona Councilman Angel Pilago.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Mahalo
Thank
to
you.
all of you. Thank you for hosting me.
Yes, and
Welcome.
just before we get into it, what's your impressions thus far on the format tonight?
I like this. I like the format. I think it's an important one. It certainly allows all us candidates to interface in a better way, so that's very pleasant. It was good, the diversity of questions, of thoughts, and interface, so I'm very pleased with that. Commend the League of Women Voters for having the foresight to put it together this way, and certainly the Association of University Women.
Great. Excellent. First of all, Angel, just right out of the bat, why do you want to become mayor?
I'm always been an advocate for civil rights and clean and open government. I certainly feel a lot of need for that to occur here on this county. I feel an obligation to our county to effect these kinds of changes within our county government. And as an example of that, all my donations, all my campaign money come from constituents, our workforce, our grassroots people. I do not accept money from developers, and that's an important thing for me. I'm not controlled by special interests, nor by controlled by good old boys. I'm an independent.
Okay, I mean, it appears that most of your campaigning has been strictly grassroots. I have not seen a whole lot of media. And of course, being in the business, it's near and dear to my heart, so I had to go.
Yes. But it certainly raises up a lot of challenges in the campaign that's a custom and routine to doing a lot of publicity, getting a lot of votes bought, if you will. I'm not condemning anyone if they choose to do so. I certainly choose to campaign in a different way. And it is cause and imperative within my campaign committee and myself, of course, to go out and meet a lot of people and to convince them that this is a proper time. It certainly is when we take into account the national political mood and the new changes that Barack Obama will institute that would bode changes in a state government, and certainly in my case it bodes a radical change, a revolutionary change in government locally. And I hope to lead that tsunami, if you will, here in Hawaii.
Todd?
Okay. Well, you mentioned there's some changes you'd like to make. What particularly are those changes? What's the biggest problem you see facing the county, and what would you do to help?
That's why I use clean and effective government, transparent government as a paramount issue. And we can reference my opening up equal number of meetings between East and West Hawaii Council meetings, and opening up to video conferencing, Waimea, Hilo, and Kona. And Pahua will come on board soon, and also the ability to web stream. One of the most important things we need to do in pulling in all these voices out of this political participation has resulted in the community development plans. The community development plans are by law enabled by the council into law, and I, as mayor, I look forward to implementing and enforcing those community development plans. The community development plans are powerful in three ways. One is it presents to the county government a systemic plan of action. It makes recommendations on ordinances and laws to improve upon. It gives schedules, and it recommends performance measures and community feedback in respect to levels of satisfaction. That's one. The second thing, the community plans, as you know, I'm much in favor of. The second thing is it allows, take Puna for example, 2 years of work, 5,000 volunteer hours, $300,000, but the product is people came together, even with the diverse thoughts, into a collective vision of what they see the Puna community to be. And that's critically important. The most important thing to me as an advocate of civil rights and clean and open government is this is a covenant, a document from the community, and sets a connection and interface with the government. And in my way of thinking, that certainly eliminates, at least diminishes, the influences of special interests within the government process. Now, if you replicate the community development plan of Puna, then you add in Kona, and North and South Kohala, and Kau that's coming on board, and then Hamakua. We see a change in the way we apply the public good and the projects that we have.
In your introduction, you were talking about a number of things besides community development plans, impact fees, for example. Now, do you see them as something that is going to have to be a critical element for being able to go and update our infrastructure to go and meet current demands and be able to meet the demands of the future?
That's a great question. Some of our friends, candidates, are confused. The impact fees are corrective action over previous bad development decisions. In the past, there was a pattern of just approving development, and these developers would cut and run and leave us with road problems, no schools, no sewers, all these kinds of things. That's what we're plagued by. So the disgust or frustration, at least, of our citizens stem from those kinds of problems. Why why is the mayor's office allowing these kinds of things to happen? The impact fee is one of the corrective mechanisms to make sure that the developers who come in are at the first level good neighbors and help us build good community, and we'll do our fair share as we expect them to do in respect to help us build the roads, help us build the medical clinics, help us build the schools. Interesting, yeah? Because some of the candidates are saying, no, the schools and the hospitals is state responsibility. It is not. It's our responsibility, and a mayor should lead the way in making sure everybody faces up to that and not deny that it's our responsibility, and developers who come in should pay their fair share towards that, making that good community happen. And that's what I'm strongly in favor of. Again, the impact fees is just one mechanism for that. And it will happen. The other ones are community facilities district. These are not new things. The foremost expert in community development plan, on impact fees, Mr. Jim Duncan, he already gives us numbers, and he told us 2 years ago he was here, 2 months ago he was here, and he told us 2 years ago you must implement this plan to make sure you institute corrective action. Took no action, everyone, at that time. 2 years from now, we have sitting now $4 million. If we had instituted the impact fees, we would have at least $21 million now to fix our infrastructure problems and invest in our community. This is a foremost expert on impact fees in the nation. And 27 states are doing, hundreds of counties are doing it. This is not new.
Okay. Obviously, if we're talking about infrastructure development, the impact fees are one way to address that. How would you make any other changes to the county tax code if you were
what we need to do is two things, and I'm for lowering the tax code, lowering the tax rates for our homeowners, residences, agriculture, and residences. But your question, Dr. Belt, is a very important one, is if we effect these kinds of tax reform here locally on our people, what about the absentee landowners who are delinquent in between $7 and $15 million that we're not collecting on? My administration as mayor is I'm going to go out and collect that money and invest that money into infrastructure where it belongs. And if they choose not to pay their delinquent taxes, I will foreclose. And I'll put those lands into the public trust, and I'll move those lands, building partnerships and consortiums with medical providers, if you will, private investors, if you will, community and government, of course, and begin to make those lands available for medical clinics. And we, on our lands, we, the county government, all of us, we commit to building the infrastructure. That's what we do. And we need to effect these kinds of changes in respect to the tax structures and also the land usages in relation to the tax structures. It's these kinds of thinking that must be instituted and have been in many places in order to build good community. We must protect the public trust, and we must face the responsibility of protecting the quality of life for all of our people.
Let's move on to what would undoubtedly be one of the first, if not the first, major issue that the next mayor is going to have to address, and that is going to have to be the solid waste question as it pertains to East Hawaii. And with the landfill eventually closing, probably sooner, not later, what sort of plans or proposals are you prepared to follow up on to find a way to go and deal with this waste disposal? And is waste to energy part of that?
Yes, it is. We're going to go from day 1 to day 30, a report from my environmental management director and deputy to make sure we begin to look at and ascertain not only the waste to energy aspect, because it needs to be a triage. The failure of the last proposal was that it was singular and independent. You must have recycling on one end, on the beginning end. The waste to energy proposal is a second phase. It could be incineration, gasification, or other types of technology. But you must have a landfill on the outside. It's a 3-part thing in Asia, in Europe, wherever it's worked. It's a 3-part setup that's in place. But the waste-to-energy facility needs to perform in Hawaii and in Hilo a very special function. It must take down the Hilo landfill, which is polluting the waters and lands of this community here. That's one of the things it must do, and it did not in the past. So if we go back, we reference the recent incineration debacle as entirely on its own. Just pay this guy money so he can burn rubbish. It's not that simple. That's one. The associated costs have not been talked about in that. It still generates ash. 12 trucks of ash going out of Hilo all the way up to Puhanahulu, through Honoka'a and Waimea, and 12 trucks of rubbish going back for burning for 20 years. And nobody tells us there's a hidden cost to that. They only said this plant's going to be burning at $124 million for 20 years. That's estimated to be an additional $70,000 or $70 million. The problem is, why didn't they tell the people this? Why were the people left out of the loop and public debate not conducted? Even the county council, with as much influence as we have, we were just dragged along and caught in the current until some of us say, enough of this. You open it up to the public, and we're going to question you in public. That's when we call for the public hearing. But we were being led by the nose through a facility that was not going to be beneficial to us, but certainly be profitable to some.
Well, but there were a number of points later down the road where you could have walked away without any additional cost. Wouldn't it have been beneficial to go and milk as much information out of them and maintain as much leverage as there was possible?
That's what they keep selling. That's not necessarily true. They were incrementalizing everyone into agreements, and that's not good. The point is, if it was an open process from the very beginning, everybody should have been in step, every parcel, every part of the way. That was what we're saying here is just let this secret process go on, and in the end, we'll all come out happy campers. Not so. The public process and the responsibility of government is to open up discussion to all those impacted, and especially the community of Hilo. The process should have been open. It should have called for public comment and should have called for public debate and not incrementalize everyone.
Okay, well, I guess we have come to the end of the evening. Angel, we thank you very much for joining us this evening. Good luck in the campaign.
Thank you. A lot of work, a lot of luck. Right. Mahalo to all of you. Thank you.
Mahalo. That's Angel Pilago, Kona Council member from the 8th District.